Okay, so let's zoom out. We've got a lot to cover on this chart. It's really a shame to miss it out. We've kind of got a super, when I say a super lesson, I mean long. I don't want to say how long. Perhaps an hour or a little bit longer. All positions have a special root 3/5 triad. Now I say special. Why is that special? Because it's root 3/5. It could be second inversion. It could be root in the C and the G positions. It has a nice root position. C also has a second inversion position. D has a first inversion position. So that's what I mean, special root 3/5. Moving up the triad, moving the triad up is like moving the fretboard pattern down. Just trust me, that's true. These are P4 tuning chords. In other words, we'll get to the little circle in a second. In other words, this is P4. So the fourth of 3 is 6. The fourth of 6 is 2. The fourth of 2 is 5. The fourth of 5 is root. The fourth of root is the fourth, of course. So we got 3, we got 6, we got 2, we got 5, we've got root, and the fourth. Alright, now the fourth of the fourth we don't play, because then we're going around in a circle of fourths. So again, the fourth shape of the fourth isn't necessarily, it is actually a Lydian fourth, so it would be the 7th. So it'll go, okay, instead of, okay, we go to the Lydian fourth to stay on the ivories. Now let's look at this little circle here. Move triad up is clockwise on this. Move the on circle of caged fourth. So move the triad up. We're going clockwise on this. Here's the triad. 5 root 3 second inversion. Starting on the C shape. Now remember, these little C's and D's, these are the bottom strings of the caged positions. Okay. Now when we talk about a tri-pentatonic, C, E, G, well look, here's the bottom strings, 3, 4, 5. The E is 7 root 2 because 3 is the 7th of the fourth. Okay, let's look at that. Here's root 2, 3. Here's the fourth, 4, 5, 6. The fourth, 7th is the third of the root. Okay, that's how that works. Let's move on. So we got C. Okay, no, the triad, move triad up is clockwise on the circle of caged fourth. So moving the triad up, we have 5 root 3 here. Okay, that's in C shape. Now in E shape, notice this is the bottom string of the E box. We've moved the triad up 1 string from that E. Go to the A box, look at the A box here. We've moved the triad up again. It's not shown. Okay, but what goes on top of G? What's the 5th of G? G. So there'll be a D up there, would there not? Because look, here's G6, here's G6, there'll be D up there. So here's root 5, stick a D on top of there, and you have your 3 there. There's root 5, 3 there, root 5, D would be there. So again, and then we go to G, okay, and back to C, that kind of thing. You're just moving the triad up. We're going to get different shapes. But it gets more interesting there because the C and the G shape are very interesting. Alright, so let's look at that. C box. We'll talk about a C shape. The easiest go to is the C box. The bottom 3 strings, 3, 4, 5. Okay, it's getting a little kind of pixelated here. and it's kind of mixed up because I use these things so many times. This 4 is kind of misaligned. It doesn't matter. This G isn't more important. It's just I'm fitting these things together piecemeal, you know, trying to make the puzzle fit. So this is the string there, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now notice in the C box we have root 3, 5 right down there on the bottom 3 strings, E, A, and D. But we also have we have 5 root 3 rather, but we have root 3, 5 on the A, D, and the G string. And also in the G box we have root 3, 5. So not only do we have a lot of second inversion 5 root 3 triads, we have in the G and the C positions, which is also G minor and C minor, we have this root 3, 5, and I'm sure in the other positions you can find them. In the D position over here we have 3, 5 root. Right here is first inversion. So these things to look for. Now let's get to the subject of the lesson. We've been waiting for this for like eons. Notice we're not going to have it on the C column, but we're going to go to the A box. Key of A open, key of C or capo 5, you know, A-shaped C. Key of G open, key of C capo 6, G-shaped C. Key of E open, or open I mean down by your fretnut, or the key of C capo on the root. Okay, E-shaped C. I have that way up here, or down here because I got it octave down. And key of D open, or key of C capo on the 2. Okay, so that would be your D-shaped C. That would be way up here, capo on the 2, like that. It'd be kind of a tough chord to play, but down here I can get it easier. It's kind of a long chord for me down here. Alright, that's key of C capo on, or bar on the 2, finger bar in that case. Now let's look at it. We're going to do this. We're going to go through this, or we're going to try to. Here's the A box. So we'll go up a pentatonic scale from A, C. We're not going to the next caged link there. See, the caged link is different. That's going back down, right? That's going the other way. It's a cage shape, but it goes up 1. Okay, so we get that A shape. Okay, so it'd be capo on 5. A shape, and then we go to the C shape, but we can do it as A minor, or we can go C shaped. Remember, 5 root 3, 5 root 3. Okay, I think I got that. Maybe I got it wrong. 5 root 3, 5 root 3. Okay. Probably messed that little one up, but we're not talking about that right now. We're not talking about going to the next shape up. That is the opposite of what this lesson is about. We are talking about half shapes here. So let's look at our half shapes. So we're going around here. We're going to go A to C minor shape, D minor shape 3rd, D major shape 4th, etc., etc. So let's start zooming in on this stuff. We've got our A-shaped A, 5 root 3. We're going to the second minor 2, 4, 6. Okay, remember, it would be a C minor shaped. Now look at this as an example, because we're never going to get through all of these at this rate. So we can look at this as an example. So we've got 2, 4, 6, and we're going to play its 7th. The dominant 7th of the Dorian is the root. This is if you want to play its 6th. And by the way, that's weird because the 6th in the 6 of Dorian, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, is only a half step below its 7th. Okay, so we've got 6, 2, 4. Now this 6, we have nothing to play on this string, so we're going to substitute the dominant 7th. We got our choice here, 2, 4, and 6. So the chord is obvious. 6, 2, open string there, root there, 2 or 4 there, and 6. That's where your fingers go.